When the shadows of despair grow darker upon the chest of history, when defeat begins to feel like destiny and fear seeps into the veins of nations, then Allah raises a single man who turns decline into a challenge and shows a scattered Ummah the path once more. That was an age when the Mongol flood trampled cities, overturned thrones, and erased names and traces alike. Muslims were terrified, their resolve shattered, and every new dawn arrived carrying news of fresh devastation. In such a time, there was one name that had not yet fallen silent: Sultan Jalal Khwarazm Shah. This is not merely a tale of swords. This is a story of resolve, of wisdom, and of the conviction that when intention remains alive, even defeat becomes a pathway. From here begins the stage where an army ceases to be just soldiers and a city ceases to be merely a city. From here, history begins to breathe again. By now, Jalal-ad-Din's army was no longer just a force. It had become the hope of the future of the Islamic Ummah. With the addition of Amin al-Mulk's troops, the Sultan's strength reached a level where he could challenge the Mongols on any front by his own command. The Sultan regarded every warrior as an architect of Islam's tomorrow. The gleam of their swords appeared like lamps of hope in the darkness of despair. Yet the Sultan was not a commander of emotions. He was a general of strategy. He decided that the beginning must be from a front where maximum damage could be inflicted upon the enemy, while minimizing losses to the Islamic forces. This would place the Mongols under pressure and, at the same time, restore courage among the terrified populace, enabling them to stand firm in the great battles yet to come. During these days, news arrived that a Mongol force had laid siege to Kandahar, and despite fierce resistance, the people of the city were unable to break the enemy's grip. The fall of the city could occur at any moment. Sultan Jalal-ad-Din wasted not a single instant. He summoned Amin al-Mulk and the seasoned commanders, finalized the strategy of attack, and the army set off toward Kandahar. Covering distances with lightning speed, when the warriors of Islam drew near Kandahar, the Mongol attackers were still unaware of the coming calamity and continued their reckless assaults upon the walls. The Sultan's forces advanced silently from multiple directions and suddenly fell upon the Mongols. Before the enemy could regain their senses, thousands of arrows had already rained down like divine wrath. Then Turk and Afghan lancers, spurring their horses forward, charged into the Mongol ranks and carved rivers of blood from one end of the battlefield to the other. The Mongols tried repeatedly to stand their ground, but the razor-sharp swords of the warriors shattered their formations. At last, the very Mongols who were considered invincible on every battlefield lost their senses and chose the path of flight. But Sultan Jalal-ad-Din had already prepared for this as well. Every pass, every hill, every route was held by entrenched soldiers who cut down the fleeing enemy one by one. According to Allama ibn Khaldun, in this battle, not a single Mongol survived. In this long chain of blood-soaked battles, Kandahar became the first battlefield where the Mongols suffered an open and decisive defeat. Sultan Jalal ad-Din achieved exactly the results he had desired. Now, in the hearts of the Mongols, the fear of the swords of the warriors of Islam had taken root, and from the hearts of the Muslims, the shadow of Mongol terror began to fade. Trusting in the help of Allah, they once again stepped into the field of jihad. This was not merely a victory, It was the day when the idol of fear was shattered. Jihad is not a temporary emotion. It demands a continuous movement, and every movement requires a center where determination is forged into steel. Before this, Sultan Jalal ad-Din Khwarazm Shah had attempted to make the capital Genj a center of resistance against the enemy, but history once again exposed the weakness within Muslim ranks. The betrayal of a few treacherous nobles, along with the merciless turn of circumstances, created such obstacles that even that fortified city slipped from the Sultan's grasp. Had this tragedy not occurred, the Sultan might never have considered shifting the center of jihad to another land. But when Genj turned to ashes, the Sultan's choice fell upon Ghazni. This was the same Ghazni that Sultan Ala ad-Din Muhammad Khwarazm Shah had assigned to Jalal ad-Din during the division of the empire. Since the Sultan often remained beside his father and participated in major decisions of the state, his rule had been established in Ghazni in his absence. But the Mongol invasion had overturned the entire system of governance. Rebellion, lawlessness, and the lust for power rose everywhere. Ghazni, too, could not remain safe from these storms, and eventually a rebel commander seized control of the city. Returning victorious from the Battle of Kandahar, Sultan Jalal ad-Din turned his direction towards Ghazni. Upon reaching the city, without any major resistance, the rebel commander was crushed, and Ghazni once again came under the Sultan's authority. After the fall of Genj, this was the first moment when the Sultan gained a land where not only military strength could be gathered, but where the hope of sacrifices bearing fruit was still alive. The news of the Sultan's arrival in Ghazni spread across eastern Khurasan like a storm wind. The Sultan's volunteers, scholars, and preachers set out from city to city and village to village, carrying the message of the obligation of jihad. Within just a few days, the atmosphere of Ghazni echoed with cries of takbir and the battle chants of the warriors of Islam. Young men filled with the passion for martyrdom began arriving in crowds at this center of jihad, pledging themselves to the cause of battle and sacrifice. Malik Shir, the ruler of Balkh, Azam Malik Mazhar, the former governor of Balkh, Malik Hassan Kazakh, and the Ghurid princes, along with thousands of soldiers, had gathered under the Sultan's banner. Saif-ul-Din Agrak Khalji joined this army of faith along with 40,000 trained Turkmenen warriors of his tribe. Thus, under the leadership of Sultan Jalal ad-Din, nearly 100,000 mujahideen had assembled on the land of Ghazni. This encampment in Ghazni was not merely a military station. It was the very forge where the revenge of the Muslim Ummah was being prepared. In every direction, disciplined young warriors were immersed in rigorous training of spear and sword, mounted combat and foot warfare, archery, and other martial arts. The region's most renowned military experts had gathered in this camp, laboring day and night on the organization and deployment of the armies. Sultan Jalal ad-Din spent most of his time overseeing these warriors, monitoring their progress and boosting their morale. During this period, Amin al-Mulk further strengthened his ties with the Sultan by giving his daughter in marriage to Jalal ad-Din. This union was both political and a firm guarantee of loyalty. Far away in Talqan, Genghis Khan was far from unaware of these developments. Like a cunning and bloodthirsty predator, his eyes constantly surveyed the unfolding situation. The gathering of warriors in Ghazni under Sultan Jalal ad-Din's command had become a serious threat. He knew that if this force was not crushed in time, the course of history could be overturned, and the blood of Muslims would shake the roots of the Mongol nation itself. For Genghis Khan, the only solution to this danger was an immediate assault on Ghazni. After a few days of preparation and gathering intelligence, he dispatched a formidable army led by his most capable generals towards Ghazni. Overall command of this army was entrusted to the renowned Mongol general Shigi Kutku. But in the skies of Ghazni, it was not only the clash of swords that echoed. Intentions had grown sharp, and determination had hardened like iron. On one side stood Sultan Jalal ad-Din Khwarazm Shah. Around him burned the fire of faith, honor, and the vengeance of the oppressed. On the other, Genghis Khan, whose invasions had left villages in ruins and drenched history in blood. Ghazni was no longer just a city, it had become the arena of destiny. Here it would be decided whether the Mongol flood could be stopped or if it would sweep away all resistance. Here it would be tested whether a defeated Ummah still had the strength to rise, or if it had already become a burden of history. This tale pauses here, but the storm is yet to come. In the next chapter, when the Mongol army stands at Ghazni's gates, when spears shatter, swords run red, and Sultan Jalal ad-Din faces the greatest trial of his life, will Ghazni become a symbol of resistance or another blood-soaked chapter? With the Echo Vibe, make sure to witness the next part, because this is not just a battle, it is the test of history.